Hey folks, Bobo's back with you. So I've talked with you a little bit about my recovery from alcoholism. I'm in recovery every day. I will never be recovered, I get that. But anyway, coming back to the introduction here, I learned that my brain is not wired like yours. Mine's a little bit off. I have circuits that have been energized that don't make sense a lot of time to normal people, to normies as we tend to call them. And I can give you a couple great examples. The first one here, and it's probably going to be the only one here on this presentation, but I will cover a few others as we go along. When I retired from the Air Force in 1988, of course I didn't get sober till 94, so I had 6 more years to run. But anyway, I love woodworking, and always have. And so I was at home during the day. Wife was working. She had a job at the school. So I'd find myself a lot of time on my hands. But after I got an application sent off for the airlines, I'd go out in my garage, which doubled as my shop, and began working on this, that, or another. And so I'm out there this one day, probably September 1988 maybe, and I got to thinking, you know what, if you're going to be operating power tools, you really shouldn't be doing that without being responsible. And part of this thought process was, how many beers do you think you can drink and still safely operate your power tools? Now, I just bought a Shopsmith, and I just love that thing. So I got to thinking, and here's where my problem was, where it began. I thought, well, let's have a beer and think about that. God, that was my answer to everything in those days. Let's have a beer and think about that. So I went in and got a Bud Light, and which was my beer of choice in those days, and started thinking about it. And so I thought, well, how many can you reasonably expect to drink and still operate table saw, drill press, planer, whatever? And I came up with 5. Okay, so I know better today, but anyway, 5 in those days. So what I did, I took that beer can and I measured it, and I multiplied it times 5, and I built a shelf that held 5 beer cans. And when I thought, okay, so then I made these curly Q things to put them underneath it so I could put them on a wall, and a bracer, and so I could tie into a couple studs and put this shelf on a wall right behind my Shopsmith, so at any given time I could look up and see how many I've had. Okay, so I'm sitting there as I'm building this thing, and I went and picked a nice piece of wood. I don't want to use trash. This is going to be a deluxe shelf. So I get this thing all built and so forth. It didn't take a lot of time. So I get this thing built, and then I got it put up there, and by that time I had drank 4 beers. I was on my 5th. So I get it all mounted and everything, and then I set the beer cans up there, and about that time I'm finished with my 5th beer. So I set it up, stepped back, took a look at it, and said, damn, that's a beautiful piece of work, and I really love that shelf. That was a great idea. Now I get to work with something I really needed or wanted to do besides this. So I thought, wait a minute. How are you going to work? You can't have any more beer. So, damn. Well, I used to think I had integrity as a serious drinker. What a crock that was. Anyway, I also thought I was a responsible drunk. Another crock. So I was really troubled by the thought of having to break my own rule, if you will. And then all of a sudden the answer came to me. Like I said, my brain's not wired like yours, okay? I took the trash can, pushed it over just underneath the one edge of the shelf, reached up, took my hand, flicked a beer can off it went down in the trash can. Now there's only 4 beer cans up there. I'm good to go. So I went about my own project until I got tired, or till the wife was coming home. And okay, better air off this for now. But that just shows you a little bit of the insanity, the self-inflicted insanity I dealt with. And let me tell you, there's many more. So with that being said, God bless you all. This is Bobo Base Gear. Stop.